And Michael Totino is here.
Ah,
Hey,
my
Michael,
buddy.
thanks for joining us. All right, so we're live and I'm recording on Zoom. Folks, thanks for joining. I haven't seen my guest since a handoff of a drum set. Mike bought one of my drum sets a few years ago. But I listen, I have a couple of your CDs. I listen to your music. I've been a fan of yours, and I really appreciate the depth of your knowledge and your passion for everything you do in the music. And you're a really great educator and just a great guy, man, and a great drummer too. Shit.
Ah, thank you.
Well, my guest today, folks, is the one and only Mr. Mike Melito. Welcome, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me, Carl.
Absolutely. It's really good to see you. For anyone joining on Facebook, just so you know, I'm monitoring the feed, and I might have to repeat this a couple times. But if you have any questions, just throw them in the comments, and we'll ask Mike. And same thing in June on on Zoom in the chat box. How you been, man?
Things have been okay. They've been pretty good,
Good.
This COVID thing's been so bad for everybody, but we're surviving.
That's good. I mean, yeah, it's really been, man. I know you know a lot of musicians, and I know a lot of musicians, and some people are doing okay, maybe doing really well with how they educate, or if they have teaching at a university or privately or both. Maybe recording tracks and emailing back and forth like people have done for like 20 years or whatever it is now. But for some, man, it's been devastating because the income is just it's been a hard hit.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky. I've been able to maintain all my students that
Good.
I have pre-COVID. So, I do it all online. You know, so it's for me. It's been good. The gigs. I think the last gig I played was November 6th. Actually, the last gig I played.
Of last year.
Yeah, last year.
Lucky you.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
right.
no, I mean,
No, I
no, but
know.
no. So what was? I'm just curious. What was the situation that you did a gig
I did a
during
gig at
COVID?
this. Well, I did a gig at this great record store here in town called the Bop Shop.
Oh
Um,
yeah, that's a classic
yeah,
place, man.
and he has the owner Tom Cohn's been a friend of mine forever, and so
Hmm.
we had I did this record with Dino Lucido, who I know you know,
Yeah.
great piano player. So we did this record, and he just asked us to kind of just do a thing for the record when it got released, and
Oh, good.
so yeah, so he just there was nobody in attendance or nothing. Obviously, he's got a
Mhm.
great space in the store. It's got really good sound. It's a really good sounding room to play, and so we just did like a concert for a couple sets, and that was about it. Just took some donations.
That's cool. I'm glad you got to do that. Yeah, I haven't been there in God probably 15 years, but that's like a landmark of music in Rochester, isn't it?
It sure is. Yeah, it's been here a long, long, long time.
So, if anyone who owns or works at the Bob Shop hears this, please know I say this lovingly and respectfully. Is the one thing I remember. The two impressions I had were it was kind of like disorganized, but they had the best stuff. It was like
Oh yeah.
a disorganized wealth of vinyl and CDs and stuff you could take out of there. I spent hours there the one day I went a few years ago, and I left with no money and a lot of CDs. But what a
Yeah.
great resource, you know?
Yeah, there's not
So,
too many stores left, and those guys have done it. They've moved actually. Probably they were in the Village Gate Square, and they
yeah, that's
moved
where I
over on
saw them.
Yeah, they moved over on Monroe Avenue. The storage is huge. It's very organized. I mean, it's
Mm.
incredible. Tom knows where everything is, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
very
So
helpful.
I hope I didn't say anything to upset anybody.
Oh no, I don't think
Yeah,
so.
okay. Because I think back at the time, I don't know if you know Malcolm Moore. Do you know Malcolm? He
The
was work.
bass player, or not the bass
He's
player.
drums and vocals, more of a
Yes, I think so. Yes.
prog
Yeah,
rock.
yeah.
I played with his band a few times at the Levin Cup years ago, but he was working there, so I saw him at the old location. Well, cool. That's cool. So tell me about. Yeah, I want to get into a little history with you, and just we'll bob and weave wherever the conversation goes. But one of the things when I look at what we've known, I don't remember the year we met, but I remember the first time I actually met you. You were playing Rochester Jazz Fest. I came out, and then we hung out afterwards. It was kind of like a daylight but evening gig. And you got done
Right.
with your set. We just kind of hung out. God, it's way over 10 years ago. Way over, and I don't know who you were with. I can't remember. Might have been Nancy Kelly. I'm not sure. But and I'd known about you before through Jimmy, because I met Jimmy Johns in 1981.
Wow.
Wow, 40 years. I actually took a place for him in a band that he was in back in that time, and then a couple bands. And then he would always, well, we used to get together a lot, just, drink beer and listen to vinyl. And then
Right.
when VHS came along and you could get, like Keith Jarrett with Jack DeChanette or whoever, we wore out the vinyl till 3 in the morning, drinking beer and watching videos. But he introduced me to a lot of people, and you're one of them who I found out about you through him. And I was curious. I just decided to switch paths for a minute, but we'll get to it. What was your introduction into music? I was curious because I never knew this about you. Like, are the drums like your were they always the primary instrument? Was there something else before or other instruments? And how'd you get into drums and jazz too? How did you get into that?
Well, I got into drums pretty much through. I have an older brother, Tom, who's a drummer,
Oh, okay.
uh, and so has some he has some years on me. He's got a couple 10 years on me, and he kind of took me under his wing when I was born. It was interesting. I used to, my older brother used to sit down in the basement and watch him at the steps, at the bottom steps, and watch him play,
Cool.
and so he really got me started. Like, he reminded me the other day. He goes, I taught you bossa nova beat when you were 4. And I go, 4, really? I said, I
Oh
don't
man.
remember it, but I remember, having to stand up on the drums because I couldn't reach the
Oh
pedals.
wow, yeah, that's
And so
cool.
yeah, he taught me a bossa nova beat, and so he really got me started into this. But I have to give it really up to my father, who got us all into it, because my father was a trumpet player,
Okay.
and he used to bring home records all the time.
Hmm.
He used to bring like all these Art Blakey records, a lot of Art Blakey records, a
Wow.
lot of Miles records. So, and they would always be placed on the we had this table by the turntable.
Hmm.
So I always asked him, Dad, can you play me like this? Can you play me that? Can you play me this?
Wow.
And and that really was very, very helpful. But I have to say, I'll backtrack just for a second. I think I bought my first jazz record on my own when I was 12, because I grew up. Everybody in my household, outside of my sister and my mom, were really played an instrument. Were into jazz.
Hmm.
So I listened to it. As a kid, and I grew up, and I was into it. But I was also into. I remember being into like a lot of pop music at the time, and
Hmm.
just listening to that. And then I remember I bought my first record. It was January 12th, 1978. I think that was my first, and
Hmm.
it was a Charlie Parker Miles record.
Oh, whoa, man.
And with Max playing drums. And so I was
Wow.
freaked out by Bird. And then I got really freaked out by Max, and I started we had this old pool table downstairs, and I love to play pool. So I would just put that record on and just repeat it over and over for
Yeah.
hours. And I started to sing along to all the solos, memorized all the solos, and then from there I actually took a big jump, and I went to Elvin from the '60s, with Train.
Whoa.
And then I
Yeah.
started that freaked me out, and I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. So
Yeah. He was.
so yeah, definitely. So I think through my brothers, I have another brother, Chris, who plays trumpet. Uh, and my dad and my brother Tom, mainly with the drums. Those guys all kind of got me into the music, and it was always on in my house. So I got like a great education through those guys, and what to listen for, uh,
Cool.
you
Yeah.
know, how do you, what's the forms? They used to teach me about forms. I remember they used to do like put on a record, and they used to say, "Okay, tell me when the next chorus is coming," and I'd have to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, because
Wow.
I used to do that, and they said, "No, that's not it. Okay, gonna go do it." But they were really great with me with that. I
That's
have
really
to really
cool.
give them a lot of credit because they really sat down and were patient with me, and then they knew I was starving to do it. So they took the time and they helped me tremendously to learn it, and then pretty much I started playing gigs pretty early, so I learned a lot from
Yeah, it's nothing like playing, right? I mean, to
that.
get
Right.
interesting. I had a little different pathway, although both of my parents went to Ithaca College, and Dad was multi-talented. He could play piano, he composed, he wrote, he trans transposed, transcribed, primary instrument drums. He took me to see Buddy Rich when I was 9. I'd
Wow.
been messing around before then, but when I saw Buddy at Cortland High School, okay, done deal. I'm in.
Yeah.
I gotta get serious about this.
Oh, of course.
So of course it was all Buddy all the time until I was 12, and then my 7th grade English teacher, and this is where the highway branched for me. So you gotta check out Billy Cobham and Chick Courier. so, so all of a sudden I'm a fusion head, if you will, listening to the Headhunters and Return to Forever and Mahavishnu, and but I can't change anything, and I'm grateful that I ever got into anything at all, because music has really carried me through a lot of difficult times in my life.
All of us, yeah.
Playing, listening, yeah, it can be very, very good for our souls to be either listening or playing. But it wasn't until I was first year of college. I was 18, and do you remember? Do you ever know Mick Luander?
No, I heard that name though.
Well, he taught at OCC. It's my first 2 years of school. Man, he had the teaching thing down, man. And he actually Peter Erskine, because I'd known Peter already from when I was 11. He and Mick said you got to check out Tony Williams.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
my first Tony experience was 4 and More.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, right.
The
Yes.
Burnin' album, man. And then of course My Funny Valentine. I think is that the name of the second one.
I
Same
think
night,
so, yeah.
same
Yeah.
band, different album, and that was it, man. That opened it up, and then I went all over the place to Jack and Elvin, but those were newer guys, especially Jack. It took a while for me to get back in time to like Philly, Art Taylor, Max, and even like Papa Joe, who I have to shamefully admit I am not familiar that much with his playing until recently when I started listening. I've worked totally backwards in my life, but you and I got together one time at your house, and I say this just admitting that I really sucked.
No, no.
I got to get this shit down, man, because I just could not. I didn't feel I could get the feel of. I really loved like the Philly stuff, man. That guy.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, he just came out of like, where did that come from? How did he? Who were his influences? You might know. I don't know who they were, but
Well, he studied with Cozy Cole, and
really,
he was,
okay.
yeah, he did. He studied with Cozy and Kenny Clark, and he used to actually. There's this great drummer that nobody knows about that's actually still with us named Kenny Dennis, and he's out in the West Coast. And those guys, Kenny and Philly Joe, used to go to Max's. It is when Max was living on Monterose Street in Brooklyn. And on Mondays, they used to take the train up to Philly from Philadelphia and go hang with Max, and Max really helped him out a lot. And so
that.
he had Cozy, and then Kenny Clark helped him a lot too.
Yeah, I mean Kenny, all those guys, man. They just had
Yeah.
this thing, They had a thing. They were real innovators.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely, yeah. Kenny Clark was really the first guy to bring the timekeeping from the hi hat to the ride cymbal. So
I
so
didn't
he
know
was
that.
really, yeah, he was. There is some debate. I mean, Kenny Washington told me he goes, I think he thinks he told me Papa Joe was really the first one. I'd have to check with him again on that, but I trust Kenny so much, you know, so
Hmm.
because he's an encyclopedia of jazz. So
I
you know,
don't know him. I've only seen him once at a little club in New York, and I didn't get to say hi. He crushed me that night in a beautiful way. It was great.
yeah. Oh, he's an incredible drummer.
Yeah.
And like I said, the records he has is. I do this Tuesday night Zoom drum hang
Hmm.
with him, uh, gee, Adam Nussbaum, Bill Goodwin. There's a lot of guys. I'm spacing. John Riley. Yeah, John's
Oh,
on there.
really? No kidding.
Yeah, yeah. Riley's on there.
That's so
You
cool.
know, yeah. So it's all these guys. So we have a ball because the records that I mean that these guys have at their record collection. I thought I had a record. These guys, my word, you know. And so any record that comes up, you know, Kenny will like dig out or Adam will dig out. Oh, this one from 1938. You know, Chick Webb record. Oh, I got this, you know. So it's been great to do those because those guys they have sent like so much music around, you know, to me and to the guys in our
Hmm.
little group, you know. So I got so much music on my computer that I still haven't gotten to, you know. But
Oh, yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? I was
yeah,
talking with Adam. I'd never met him. I invited him to be a guest, and we talked for a couple hours. Man, first of all, I always loved his playing. He's so
oh
versatile
yeah,
too.
oh yeah.
But wow, he was fun too.
Oh, he's loves the music. You
Yeah.
know, I've gotten to be really good friends with him over the past few years. He actually came to the jazz festival in about 5 years ago, and he was listening to me play in the jam sessions, and then came up to me and you know was real complimentary. And we just started to talk, and you know he came back and he remembered me, and then we started just hanging out a little bit, and you know, so keeping in touch. And he was
Yeah.
been very nice to me, and now we do the Zoom thing, so it's great, you know.
That's so cool. Yeah, he's another encyclopedia, man. He
He
behind him
sure
in
is.
just one of his rooms, he had literally a wall side
He's
to
got.
side full of CDs, and that was like the beginning
Oh
of a
yeah.
collection.
Yes, it's yeah. He's
Yeah.
got a he's an amazing drummer because he's a guy that knows the whole history. He loves Shadow Wilson. You
Mhm.
know, it's funny
Oh,
when people
cool.
think of Adam and he plays like with a lot of like Brecker, like some
Hmm.
of the funk stuff he'd done. I mean, you know, I don't know if you ever seen that video or it was like from the Newport Jazz Festival with from '87 with Jeff Andrews, Mike Stern, Brecker, and him,
Yeah,
and they're playing
I've
that.
probably seen it, the whole
And I
concert.
forget.
But do you know
Yeah,
the
I
name?
forget there was. I don't know. There's one tune they played, and it was just in like a on PBS, and it was they're playing this real funk rock thing that was just he was so on this 18-inch bass drum and
Yeah,
just so burning. I mean, just amazing. And then you know all the other stuff he's done, you know, and then you get to know him, and it's like you know he knows like man every Blue Note record, every like you know he loves Shadow Wilson. Like I said, he was like a.
oh,
I mean, you know, he's just got it all covered. He's really a type of guy that can do a lot of stuff, and he's a pretty humble guy too.
very.
You know.
He's
Yeah.
fun too. He somebody made this comment to me, and I said, yeah, actually, he, they said he talks kind of like one of those '50s bopsters.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, but that's Adam. That's the quintessential Adam, and he has so many funny things to say too. Sense of humor is beautiful. I know
Oh, he
the
does.
last thing he said to me because he knew I was going through the COVID stuff. Said, "Remember, Carl, stay positive, but test negative." And the
Yeah.
the way he said it. Well, say hi to him for me too if you see him tomorrow night. I want to send him a note. Just say thank you
I
to
will
him.
for sure.
I remember Erskine was telling me that I don't know a little while back, not too long, they did maybe out in the West Coast a tribute to Elvin, and they brought in Adam as the main guy.
Right.
And
He's an
Pe-
Elvin fanatic.
Peter was describing how only Adam could have done it. Of course, Adam's way, not trying to be like Elvin, but to really pull that off and make it just beautiful. I can see
Yeah.
him doing that. I can hear him doing it too.
Oh yeah, I mean it. I mean it's funny because I remember the last time he was here. I think it was the last jazz festival. He was here with, well, he was here with Abercrombie. You know, who
Mm.
obviously he passed
Uh-huh.
unfortunately. But and my buddy Gary Versace, great organ player, who's
Oh
played with
yeah.
those guys, had a trio for years, and boy, it was amazing hearing Adam play that music. I mean, it was just really to throw down like that. You know, it was just
Yeah.
and have all this stuff going on. It was I was like, wow, man, he's got so many such great hands. He's got a great touch in the drums too.
He
It's the other
does.
thing
Yeah.
about him, you know, and he plays the ride. He can play the ride cymbal really light, and it's just so flowing and really nice. You know.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So let's go back. Let's go back. You bought the Bird and Miles thing, and Max is playing on it. Well, you'd been hearing Art Blakey before that, because your dad had
Yes.
records and stuff. So, what I'm just kind of curious. Like, is there any particular drummer or a couple who they're like the ones that you would always gravitate to listening to primarily for decades, let's say? Because I mean, mine in the early days, it was always Buddy, because he's the only one I knew of, or Gene Krupa or
Right.
Louis Belson. So a little bit different genre, but once I got into Tony and stuff and Elvin, I mean, I kind of like just couldn't stop, and I still listen to them all the time, and Jack. So,
Sure.
what was that like for you? Who were your
Well,
go-tos, or did you
you
have any
know,
go-tos?
oh yeah, I did. You know, the biggest one is Philly Joe Jones. I mean, he was for me was I just as soon as I heard him play, he just for me he was the god of,
Yeah,
because you know the thing about Philly Joe is he really he swung so hard. He had
yeah,
such a swinging. You know, for me, I'm all about the ride cymbal beat and playing time. You know,
hmm,
and making the band feel good. You know, but he did that consistently. You know, and he loved Charles Wilcoxon too, and I'm a big fan of the Wilcoxon books. You know,
oh yeah,
and so I grew up studying the Wilcoxon books too, so I could hear that in his playing. So I kind of gravitated towards him the most, and and to his feel, like I said, he just had this bounce in his, and everything he played just had this swing. He had total control over the phrasing. Anything he
yeah,
wanted to do, he could do. I mean, Art Blakey actually said something one time that I heard in an interview. He said Philly Joe was the most talented guy he ever knew. You know, so
oh yeah,
yeah. So Philly Joe was huge. Blakey was huge, and Art Taylor was really big for me. You know,
love that guy.
back then he was. Yeah, Art. I'd say AT and Philly Joe. You know, and then of course there's Jimmy Cobb. I mean, I could go on and on. After that, there's all the others. You know, guys. So.
It's interesting. Well, I'm curious actually. Before I forget this question, where did you first like? What was the situation, the musical group you heard Philly with the first time? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was Miles Davis around midnight.
Okay.
You know, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. That when they play, yeah, when they do Dr. Jekyll, like that song. It's like the real.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know names very well. I'm horrible with names of songs.
But the thing that struck me the most, Carl, about that, and still to this day, I tell all my students, because this is one thing I have a little bit of a beef with when I watch some of these internet drum. I'm not afraid to say it. Is that people think that once you get to a certain tempo, the beat should flatten out, just go ding a ding, ding a ding, ding a ding, ding a ding, ding a ding. But you know what? They flatten that out, so they almost start cheating. It's like thing goes ding 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 ding. You can still play a triplet. That could still swing. You
Just
know.
a fast. Yeah.
So I really worked hard on trying to. That's one of my things I worked really hard on, is trying to just like play to that, because if you listen to that, Philly Joe's not going ding a ding ding a ding ding a ding ding a ding.
No, never.
It's not like a samba pattern. He's playing
Exactly. Right. Not a straight eighth or straight 16th or anything.
He's got the triplet happening in that. So now there is obviously a point where it does. You're 400 or something. Yeah, you're going to straighten your beat out, but but I think people just tend to. I notice this amongst a lot of younger students who even study with me and who have studied with me over the years, that they'll if a tempo gets to a certain speed, it starts to flatten out. And I say, why are you flattening your beat out? It still can swing here, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just because I think some of it is there's a big movement with the, try to hear each individual stroke on the ride cymbal, you know. Got to hear ding-a-ding, ding-a-ding, ding-a-ding. You know, for some reason, that's another thing that bothers me. You know, because if you listen to Art Blakey he had a heavy 2 and 4 in his cymbal beat, you know. And so,
Yeah.
no, you know, nobody's really I don't think would be in their right mind would go argue with Art Blakey's cymbal beat. Now, obviously, you just didn't hear this 2 and 4, but, you know, there's different ways to phrase the cymbal beat. But as long as it feels good, I mean, Elvin played like on the 1, 2, and on the end, the 2 and the end, the 4 he put in that. Like,
yeah, that's a good enough.
Getting.
I think it might just come down to partially how they feel it. You know, John Rohde and I were talking back a few years ago. We were talking about Jimmy Cobb, about his ability to keep that quarter note going and still swing.
Right.
You can hear the quarter note with Jimmy, man. It's like on Kind of Blue, some of that stuff.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah.
It's like nobody else has done that the same way that I know of.
Nobody. You can't copyright that. You know, copy that.
I think that really comes from here. You know, this is a feeling we have. Right? You're not thinking it, you're feeling it. Which is one thing I've never felt very well in my execution of it because, well, probably I didn't practice it enough, but doing all, 90% not jazz because you got to pay the bills, and so you go do a wedding and play, Elvis.
Right, exactly.
But anyways, I never enjoyed that. But hey, I got a lot of bills paid from it. But I didn't really dedicate myself to practicing that. I had other things in mind. And it's funny, like right now, not that this is not an interview about me. This is about Mike, but we do have common interest here, and I'm really working backwards now, man. I'm working backwards. I'm listening to Papa Joe, and the one who told me to listen to him was Dennis Chambers. And it's like,
really? Okay.
He has an old set of Papa Joes.
Oh, he does?
He does, yeah.
Wow.
And Dennis, man, I mean, he's done so much stuff, and some people love him, some people not that crazy, and whatever, it doesn't matter. But when it comes to this, man, his knowledge of history, he said, you got to go check out Papa Joe. Do it. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So I finally started
another guy
doing
that was a huge guy.
Yeah. So there's
Papa Joe was amazing.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, it's fine. I'm going to be 60 in June. It's like I'm finally getting my act together here with some of a little bit of the foundational listening I should have done, but I can't reverse it. So it's really cool now to go back and rediscover. I enjoy this a lot, which is when I listen to a couple of your CDs, I can listen differently now because I've been away from it for so long. It's just really refreshing. And after talking with people too, like with you, and hearing what you're saying, and it gives me a new perspective. There's a story I wanted to mention. I don't know who told me. It might have been Jimmy Johns talking about. All I can say, I think it's the vinyl, and I can't remember the song name. If you said it and sung it, I'd know it. But I think it's First Cut, Second Side of Porgy and Bess, maybe. Kind of an uptown.
Okay.
Maybe it might be Milestones.
Gone?
I don't know. Don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Or maybe it's on the Milestones one, but it's Philly with no hi-hat.
Right.
No hi-hat, swinging the crap out of it. Now, the rumor is, and I know Philly had problems with different things, like a lot of people do. He might have pawned off a hi-hat before the session, and he didn't need the hi-hat to make it swing. I mean, that's a ride cymbal, baby. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
That's power.
Well, with Philly Joe, see, that's the thing. He was a master of all he needed was, like on a lot of those Miles records, he didn't have a small tom, He didn't have a small tom. One cymbal. And, the thing is with him is, he could make that sound like, he was just, that guy that could just make it sound like a whole orchestra with so little, because he knew exactly how to get the feeling of the music, and he knew exactly, his instincts were so strong that, and he was, he knew he was a master too. I mean, he's definitely, he said in the interview one time, he goes, he was saying, he goes, my hands, I played so long, I can do whatever I want with them. I don't hardly have to practice anymore, So, during his, I would say in his prime, yeah, definitely. I mean, towards the end of his life, he needed to, you could definitely hear he was a little, wasn't in his prime, but it was still incredible, I mean, so it's like, but him, yeah, he could take a ride cymbal and, it's like Billy Higgins with, there's the old story of him going to Bradley's and playing brushes on a phone book. And they had brushes for him, and he would just play on a phone book, and it would sound unbelievable. That's all right. So, yeah, those guys just, but it all comes down to it's mastering the ride cymbal and the time feel. It's not just it's just, I think sometimes it gets, I really do say this honestly, I think people get too chops heavy impressed. This guy's got tons of chops and this guy's got a billion chops, and wow, and that's the wow factor. But once if you really start to study this music, you understand that even guys like Tony and Elvin had an incredible cymbal beat, and they came out of all that. They came out of the history of Papa Joe and
they exactly.
And that's why they could do that.
Somebody was telling me recently that Tony used to like literally just practice a ride cymbal only for like 8 hours.
I believe it.
Nothing else, just ride cymbal along with like maybe different tempos, different records. And if you think about some of the stuff he did with his ride and how it changed also from early 60s to mid to later, kind of makes sense.
Right.
I want to ask some stuff about you and concepts and your teaching and various things, but I just thought of this story, this thing I saw years ago. I saw an interview with Elvin. I don't know who was doing it, but I think it occurred back in the late 70s, early 80s, maybe. And they were saying, the guy's like, so, Mr. Jones, how come is it that sometimes when you're trading fours, that it seems like maybe you come in a little bit after the downbeat of the fifth measure? It just seems like the time is different. It is with the big Elvin grin. It's like, well, some fours take longer than others. It was absolutely beautiful,
great.
man.
That's beautiful.
But it's very elastic. Elasticity is very important. It's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, one guy I played a lot of gigs with is Pat LaBarbera, and Pat used to be with Elvin for years.
I wanted to talk with you about him. This is perfect segue because I love Pat, first of all. So talk. Go ahead, man. Tell me.
Okay, well, I was just gonna say, he always was. He said Elvin was like. He said he was very clear actually, and he says he wasn't like just this loud drummer. I mean, he had incredible dynamics. I remember him telling me that, because I remember I played the jazz festival with him up here, and we were playing all of Elvin's music, like a lot of stuff that he played with Elvin. That I heard him play with Elvin, so I'm thinking like, what the hell am I gonna do? It's like, and I'm like,
there's no pressure, Mike. There's no pressure.
No pressure. I go, man, I'm just, And so he goes, but the LaBarberas being such incredible musicians and such good people, I know all of them very well. In his humility, he goes, hey, how do you think I felt with Train? He goes, I said, well, he goes, man, he played with Train, and it was me, I had to. And he goes, well, man, I said, but we're playing this stuff like Elvin's birthday, or Kiko's birthday march, whatever the birthday march was.
Yeah.
And all these that I heard him play with Elvin, and I think, boy, man. And I'm not trying to think about. First thing, the mistake you make is trying to play just like Elvin.
Exactly.
You can't. You got to just try to get into your head the way you yourself would interpret the music, and that's what I did. I tried, but but yeah, it was funny because Elvin was really right on the money with his choruses and fours, and
Yeah, yeah.
he was pretty on it, you know.
Yeah, so when the guy asked that question, actually, so this is a point where I always, as I always say, I can learn something from anybody. It doesn't matter who it is. Um, but when I've listened to Elvin, there are times, and Jack too, there's this elasticity factor. And I've never really sat down with like a metronome. I'm not going to do this and see, are they exactly metrically perfect? Because it doesn't matter. It's about the feel to me. But
Right.
if we were to measure it out, I don't know if it might have felt like came out a little after the downbeat of where, you know, and maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But to have that ability, even when you know it's dead on, which is pretty much always right as far as I know, to have the ability to have the elasticity factor is that's something special.
Oh,
And
for
that's
sure.
unique, so unique to Alvin and Jack in particular. Those are the two I think of most when I think of elasticity. I know there are a lot of others, but that feel, man, it's just amazing.
Well, it's funny because yeah, sometimes maybe things might not come exactly out on the one, but I think that's could be part of the vibe of the music too. See, the thing is too about jazz. I think we always try to be as perfect as we can as musicians, but in jazz, part of the beauty of that is it's being the human, bringing the human element
Yeah.
involved in that. So things might not come out exactly, but it might work. Like one solo that Elvin took, I believe it was on this Ready for Freddie record, and on this song called Crisis, and he takes
Okay.
this thing, and if you count it out, it's like they get really kind of almost they feel like Freddie Hubbard gets like lucky coming in right on beat one of like when up, but it's like beautiful, and
Yeah.
then it's like and just everything Elvin did, man, he could swing so hard. He had such a
Yeah.
great cymbal beat, a great just I mean, geez, I could name a million records I've heard. I just like listened and play along to all the time, myself. And
Thank you.
Jack DeJohnette's another guy I have to say real quickly.
Hmm.
Um, sorry, I'm kind of jumping in. You get me going,
No,
man.
it's
I, I
totally
could
cool, man.
I could go on for hours. But one thing
Please
I will say
do.
about one thing I'll say about him is I heard him play the jazz festival here with Larry Goldings, and I think it was maybe
Schofield.
Schofield.
I was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
were you there?
Yeah.
And it was weird because I was sitting backstage watching him behind Larry, Goldings, and he's playing these fours, and it's like sounds like he's playing like like a lot of like this Philly Joe and Blakey stuff in
Yeah.
his own way. But I heard it clear as a bell, and I was like, and his knowledge of he's another guy that he doesn't get enough credit for. I mean, he's an older guy, and he could play all that stuff. He knows so much the whole history of this music.
Yeah.
There's another guy you can't stump. I mean, because they tried to do that in a modern drummer. There was this modern drummer interview, and they started
Oh.
asking him about this guy and that guy, and man, he'd go on and he was a big Art Taylor fan, and he talked about Philly Joe, and he talked about Cozy Cole and Big Sid, and specifically things that they had,
Hmm.
not just mentioning names and little, what I mean. So but Jack, God, I mean, I heard him with Keith a number of times, and that
Oh.
trio is just so beautiful in what they did.
I was at one of those shows with Jimmy Johns and I can't remember who else came with us. Eastman Theater, I think, probably, and
I
I'm
was at that.
pretty sure it was in '86.
Yep, I was at that concert.
It is, of course, they always set up with, as you're looking at the stage, Jack on the right, Gary, Keith on the left, and I have a recording of that concert,
Oh, you do? Huh?
just so you know.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I got it. I think I got it from Steve Kiner,
Oh,
like
okay.
30 years ago. Although I've done a lot of bootlegging on my own, but a lot of bootlegging. But
Wow.
it's just for me. But and it's really all about listening and learning and like, okay, he played it this way in this gig, he played it that way on the album and that way on the live album, and look at the three different versions we heard, right? So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he did some fours that, or trading that night. It might not have been fours, could have been 8s, 16s, but one of the things I loved so much in that show was the build up of tension. And you're like, I wonder where one is. I'm thinking, I kind of think I got it, and then, and the other guy, the guys on stage, Keith, and they're on it, man, and I'm
Yeah.
not. But wow, what an incredible show! I only saw
Oh,
the one time, that trio.
I remember I was at that show. I remember you and Jimmy came. And
Yeah.
you guys sat to the right. I remember that. And I remember because Jimmy called me the next day. And we started talking about it. He was saying, oh my goodness, man. It's hard to leave the seat after hearing those guys. Just because, the music, the dynamics that trio had, and the way they the interaction
Yeah.
was so strong. I mean, and it was so, everything was going could go in so many different directions, but it was so always centered,
Yeah.
And it was like, boy, yeah, it was an amazing concert. I'll never forget that one.
When I had a VHS of that band just before I saw the concert. I got it from some guy in Chicago from when I used to live out there, and I paid a lot of money for that bootleg. But also, Jimmy and I used to watch it, till 2 in the morning. This is like three gods playing. This is how I looked at it. This is the new Bible.
Right.
This trio, standards, and of course, now it's on YouTube. But I mean, I watched constantly. I could not get enough. Beautiful stuff. So, I'm going back a little. I'm diverting a little bit. Did you ever see Philly, Joe? I know you saw Elvin. Did you ever see Philly or meet him? And did you ever meet Elvin? Or
I met Elvin actually. It was in Toronto at the top of the Senator. He was up there, and a bunch of
cool.
us from Rochester drove up just for the night to see him. So he sat at our table actually. So I got a picture.
Wow, man.
I got a picture with me. I got he's got his head on my shoulder. He's got a Beck's beer, and it's like, yeah, and it's like, and I just told him how much his playing just inspired. Oh, we were all saying that,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just said, man, I was speechless. I said, man, I bought this record when I was a kid with you on, and it changed my whole life. And he was just, oh man, he's like, oh.
Yeah, he had the growl.
Yeah, and he goes, now you drove from Rochester to come hear me. I can't do his imitation, but I go, yeah, we all did. He goes, you saying overnight. He was really concerned about us not driving back. He goes, I don't want you to drive back. He goes, because he says, this is late at night, man. What is it, 3:30? That's 4. You're gonna get home at 4 in the morning. He goes, man, I'm really worried about it. I go, nah, we're a bunch of youngins, we can do that. It's nothing,
Yeah.
And so we did it, and it was well worth the trip, though. And
Oh God, yeah.
And Max,
I would do
we
that.
saw up there too. Max
really?
Roach, the same way, Max. And man, he was another guy. He was a sweet guy. He was really. I got to be around him quite a few times, and he was super sweet to me,
See, that's
So.
cool. I saw him once in Chicago with the Cecil Bridgewater, Odeon Pope, and Eubanks. Somebody Eubanks on bass.
Was it? Oh, it's David Eubanks, maybe.
Yeah.
The bass player.
Mm-hmm.
He drowned. Yeah, he
What?
He died. He died. He was 20 in his 20s, I think. He died. He drowned. Yeah, he was.
Holy.
Because he played with Dexter too.
I also saw him with Dexter. I was just gonna say I saw him with Dexter and Kirk Lightsey and Eddie Gladden.
Right, Eddie Gladden.
The best brush solo I've ever seen.
Yeah, I believe it. He
It
was,
was
a
a
powerful drummer, man.
It was. I could not believe my ears and eyes watching him and listening, and it was a smoking tune. This was where you'd normally use sticks.
Right.
He did the whole thing in brushes, and it was beautiful and burning. And of course, what was really cool, and going off a little because this is just so much fun to talk about this stuff, is Dexter was standing in front of me. I was at Joe Siegel's Jazz Showcase, front row. I could put my feet on the stage like an inch, literally, from the front of Dexter's shoes. And of course, the stage is 1.5 feet high, and he's already 6'4".
Right.
So I'm like this, literally looking like this all night, right in front of Dexter. And then I noticed whenever he wasn't playing, he'd walk over to the corner, and Kirk's playing a solo or Eddie's doing something, and I could hear the tenor, so I purposely got up and I went over near there, and he was playing through the whole song, man. Every song, he pretty much played the whole
Wow.
time. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. He played in the corner quietly, but he played.
Wow.
And of
I
course, he
didn't know
held up the
that.
horn every time. He held up the horn, and I love that show. Yeah, so Eubanks was on that. So, um, yeah, just one other. I only saw Elvin once. It was about 6 weeks before he passed. Regatta Bar, Boston. Uh, he wasn't in good health, but he played really well. He
Oh
had the
yeah, I
big
bet he did.
smile.
Yeah.
He just he it was beautiful. I had a front row seat right in front of him there at a table. And then after the gig, I'll never forget. He was standing there, and I walked up, and I'm like, "Mr. Jones, I don't even know what to say other than thank you."
You know,
Oh
that's
man,
great to
oh
know.
yeah, thanks, man. So you changed my life. Thank you is all I can say, and I'm ready to cry. And then he gives me a big hug. So then I left. I went out to the courtyard and I cried and I called Jimmy Johns and I said, "Jimmy, Elvin just hugged me." Yeah, I didn't talk with Jimmy. He was on his voicemail or something, but it was like, holy crap, man. I think it might have been 2004 is when
Right.
he passed. Yeah.
I think yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
So that was a beautiful night. Well, I wanted to ask you also, you've done a lot of work with some people who are, besides you being one of my heroes, like Pat LaBarbera and James Moody. I'm just curious, and when I ask questions, I'm not usually the kind of person who's going to say, "What was it like?" But I am going to say, "What is it like to work with Pat LaBarbera? What was it like to work with James Moody? What did you take? What do you take away from those kind of musical experiences?"
Well, it's funny because I would say with Moody, see, I played. Chuck Mangione hired me to play with. He had this. I don't know if you remember back in 1994. He had this big Chuck Lights Up Upstate tour. He had bands in Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Utica. It wasn't very well publicized, believe
I
it or
don't
not.
think I knew about that.
So I was playing in a band with my buddies, the Snyder brothers, John and Bob
Oh
Schneider.
yeah, yeah.
And Chris Potter was playing, too.
Oh
Chris was
geez.
playing tenor,
Wait a
and
minute. Really?
yeah.
Holy
So we're
shit. Okay.
so we're playing opposite Moody, who was playing with Junior Mance, Ron Davis, a great drummer who
Oh
passed
God,
away,
yeah.
and I forget the bass player, but so they were playing, and then so we were playing. I think it was in Buffalo we were playing. That's where we were playing. So Moody had heard us. He was hearing us play. So there was a few weeks in Rochester that he needed a drummer, so he hired me. He said, want to play the 2 3 weeks? I said, of course. So first of all, I will say this: just hearing him was unbelievable. The
Mm-hmm.
power in his sound. I mean, he's for me is like if I had to pick really one of the greatest musician ever, he's it. I got to give it to because this guy was
Wow,
like
man.
he had more
Yeah.
energy. And he was in his 70s,
Yeah.
uh, and he was late 60s. Yeah, he was he turned 70 during the time we were playing, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, but when I got to play with him, the power that you just felt, and I'm not talking. I mean, just the history in the way he phrased his notes, in the way
Mm-hmm.
like when we played "Girl from Ipanema," and I remember that we played that, and one thing I told him, I said, I really am interested in what you want to hear from the drums. I was 25 at the time. So man, I want you to tell me if it's nothing. It's cool to go out and say sticks or brush or whatever. It's fine. Don't worry about. I said, I just really want to hear what you said. And I remember he told me, he says, look, he goes, I wouldn't have hired you. He goes, I love the way your energy. He goes, you hit hard, and I'm half deaf in my left ear. I'm deaf. So he goes, that's one of the reasons why I really wanted you on this gig. And he goes, but okay. So one thing he told me, he says, uh, girl from India, he goes, just play brushes. I don't want any rim
Mm-hmm.
knots or nothing. So I'm thinking, okay, gee, it's 25. I'll try to do that. So really, I did it, and I learned a lot from playing that because he played flute on it, and his flute playing was unbelievable.
Mm.
and that was really it had a bottom to it. You usually
Mm-hmm.
don't think of flutes having real, but
Yeah.
everything. I will say that everything that Moody played, whether he played alto, tenor, or, or flute, man, it just had this bottom, and
Mm-hmm.
this beat was so wide. It was like he could just lay that stick down, and it was just he just had this buoyancy about him, and all
Yeah.
the endless ideas, and he was that came out of you heard the history, and he always was really into current players. He loved Chris Potter, he
Mm-hmm.
loved Jerry Bergonzi.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
fact,
That's another one. Jeez.
yeah, he used to actually. He said he was working out of Jerry's books at the time. You
Oh
know,
wow,
like
man.
and yeah. So he was and he always practicing. So what it really for me, what I got out of playing with him was I got a lot of life lessons because we had dinner every night
Oh
during
cool.
that time. And he always used to tell me, I used to ask him a lot of questions, and he used to say, he goes, big thing was nutrition with him. He used to tell me, he goes, if it doesn't, he used to, and he hated smokers, but he said, man, whatever you eat, don't eat anything that doesn't come out of the ground. He used to tell me that.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And then he
That's cool.
goes, the other thing he goes, there was no smoking allowed back, like when he played. He goes, he used to say the family that smokes together chokes together.
Mm.
That was another one
That's a
of his
good one.
sayings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other one was, you have to keep moving to keep moving. That's because he used to walk like 3 miles a day. And so,
I want to touch on that, but after a while. Yeah, that's a really
okay,
important thing too. Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So playing with him, he just had, like I said, we played. He loved to play giant steps. Actually, that was one of his favorite tunes to play.
Oh, cool.
Played that every night. Um, and I remember we used to play Freedom Jazz Dance like to get into giant steps. It was
Mm.
weird.
Oh, okay. That's a
So
cool
we play on
combo.
that for a while. Yeah. And I know I'm probably going way too over here, but one thing he
Not
was
at
a guy
all,
that
man.
really.
You got all the time you want.
But I will say this, for playing with him was just like it was going to school because you couldn't learn that in any college. Sitting down
Right.
next to playing with that guy, and with his tenor sitting right next to you, and and he was always the kind of guy that uh, was just very very nice. He was incredibly nice, and he was just, geez, he was very honest too. We had a lot of good, honest conversations about many musicians, and he really opened up to me about some of the things he didn't like that I'm not going to repeat, and some of
Hmm.
the guys he loved. And I learned a lot. So that's what I'll say about Moody.
Yeah.
Playing with Pat, boy, Pat's just playing with, he played with Buddy for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and he played with Elvin, and I think the first times I played with Pat was probably he used to come to the he still does been coming to the jazz festival almost every year since it started.
Mm-hmm.
So he used to come to the jam sessions and sit in and just loves to play and any tune and you'd play with him, and and you would hear again the history that here's a guy that
Yeah.
would take
Right.
like Lester Young and listen to Lester Young for a month, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and he would sometimes, he told me one time we did this gig actually with Bob Schneider at this private party. He goes, "This is Lester Young month," so I listened to nothing but Lester Young for this month, and he's got this mosaic box sets and I remember like the all the CD covers were broken, and so he would listen to him that much, like
Yeah.
and so but again, another guy with a lot of history, a lot of rhythmic stuff. His rhythmic thing was ridiculous. His
Mm-hmm.
ideas are great, and he's another guy that could fit into any situation,
I'm
and
sure.
just humility with that guy, and both of them were just so humble and so nice, and and it just taught me that I guess that that's the way you want to be as a musician. For me, that's how I wanted to be in terms of not only how they played, but just how I will say how I wanted to present myself as a musician. In terms of no matter how much recognition you get, you're always a student. And
Well,
that's the biggest lesson I learned.
I think that's an extremely relevant point too, and a great goal because I think all my favorite players locally, when I say locally, like let's say regionally, your area, my area. Look at like Jimmy and John Rhodey and all these
Oh
people
yeah, of
who,
course.
and they're students of the music,
Sure they
and
are.
they're professionals of all professionals, just like yourself.
Oh
You
yeah.
want to present yourself a certain way as a human. That comes out through your playing, but you've done the homework, and you're always doing the homework, and will continue to do that and study and learn and refine things and evolve. And Adam Nussbaum's a great example. I just when you were
Yes.
talking about him, what a humble guy. I mean, it doesn't mean he doesn't know he's good or think he's good. It doesn't mean that for anybody. But
Right.
it doesn't mean that you've arrived at the end and okay, that's all there is, and I got it, and I'm the best at this. No, there's more to do, right?
Oh, there's a lot more. Sure.
Yeah,
It's never ending, and
yeah,
that's how I look at. I mean, gee, I go over stuff I practice. All the stuff I teach, I still even go over, and I've been teaching this stuff for 20, 30 years, And
yeah.
I teach, and there's a lot of new stuff I do too. There's a lot of stuff I'll do coordination wise,
Hmm.
out of books with all kinds of things, to get my limbs, just get everything flowing and feeling good, nothing tight and stiff, and just trying to and that's something that I try to always teach, try to, I try to keep everything like, but the most important thing, again, like I said, it's like if you play a rock or funk tune, if you listen to Steve Gadd, you know,
Yeah.
and then you listen to Rick Marotta, you know.
Hmm.
And a lot of people don't know, but well, probably a lot of people know this by now. But I remember, keep this short. I'll try to keep this short.
That's
But
no, keep going. It's fine.
the one thing I'll say is I played this thing with this party with Bob Schneider and Phil. I think it was Phil Flanigan maybe, up at the at CMAC, and we were playing in this silent auction thing in this tent. So here comes Gad walking in, and we were on break. So he comes over to me, he goes, "Well, what, and I know him a little bit. So he goes, "So Mike," he goes, "Man, he goes, man, he goes, Rick's playing, and like I don't know Rick, I go, "Yeah, Rick Marotta, man, one of the." He
Yeah,
goes,
right.
"Man," he goes, "Man, no," he used to tell me, "Man, that backbeat, man, he loved Rick." So here I talk about humility. He goes, "Man, do you think they'll let me down there to say hello to him?" And so I said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Man, you're Steve Gadd. Are they going to let you down there to say hello to him?" I said, "I don't think you'll really have a problem." I said, "But there's another guy. I mean, so you listen to him play, and I grew up. I'm
Yeah,
with
he's a
friends,
Rochester boy, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and listening to Chicory. I think I wore Chicory of Friends out. We used to. I love that. I still love that record.
Me too. It's
All
got
those
this.
Chick records.
That's the one with the Smurfs on the front, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Joe, I think Joe Farrell might be on
Joe
that, and
Farrell, he plays
Eddie
unbelievable on that.
Gomez.
Eddie plays on it. It's just an
That's a
unbelievable record.
beautiful album, man.
But then you listen to Rick play on like Peg, off the the Steely Dan,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that backbeat just is like grooving. So
Oh,
so it's like
yeah.
the backbeat to that. I mean, I think a drummer's backbeat for rock and playing that stuff is like the jazz drummer's cymbal beat. That's kind of
Hmm.
how I equate things. So, it's like if you're the backbeat and the bass drum, obviously the just bah, ka-dong, bah, just the way you sit back on that beat.
Hmm.
The placement of that, the placement of where you're not just going boom boom pop boom boom pop, or you're not going ding ding ga ding ding ga ding. Yeah, I play
Yeah,
jazz, ding, you know what I mean? It's
yeah,
so much deeper than that. So when I hear those, when I listen to all drummers, that's kind of in any style. I kind of listen for how it makes me feel. Jimmy and I always talk. Jimmy Johns, who and I have always talked about that. He goes, it's how the way music moves you. And like Jimmy always says that. He goes, the way it kind of moves you.
hmm
And that always kind of hit home with me too. We talked about that many years ago.
hmm
And that's kind of what it does for me. It's so.
There's a drummer I also like. As far, you talk about funk and backbeat stuff. Rick Latham.
Oh yeah.
He can lay. We actually talked yesterday for like an hour, all pretty much about neurological stuff. He's
Oh
fine. It's
wow.
just we know
Okay.
he knows people and he had questions, and I'm going to have him on as a guest in a couple of weeks. But the I've been you know, I've been listening to him on and off for years, and I was just on again a couple days ago watching. The, man, talk about a backbeat, right?
Right.
And but it comes down to the feel, because he did the ghost notes, he did this and that, but there was the emphasis on the boom, boom, and there's stuff in the middle, but it doesn't get in the way, and it's not busy sounding. That those ghost notes and that stuff helps propel the feeling of the primary notes,
Right.
primary beats. Yeah, it's really
Right.
such. It's I see what you mean. I actually, you know, it's interesting. I love this because I never thought about it in terms of a rock drummer's backbeat and then a parallel of the ride cymbal for jazz. But that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
Because even though you're just even if you're playing, so say if you're just playing a regular just bang dang a lang dang you know bang a lang dang a lang, and you're playing your left hand comping.
Hmm.
Okay, well, you know, I always feel like the feet and the hands really enhance that cymbal beat, you know.
Yeah.
So, but you should have a really very strong cymbal beat to start, and that's for me. If you don't have a really good strong really swinging cymbal beat, you know, and that's hard to get. You know, you really have to work at that, and you know, people think
Yeah.
that's easy, man. That's the hardest thing, one of the hardest things to do in the world for playing jazz. I mean,
Tell me
it's
about it.
some, yeah, that's playing spang-a-lang and really and having to and sit with a ride cymbal with a Philly Joe record and go bang, dang, dang, and don't move, don't change you don't have to change the pattern. Just play spang. People, this is another thing too. People think that if you're not loose, if it's not ding a ding 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 a ding a ding ding a ding ding a ding. Well, there's plenty of drummers that play so tight and go ding a ding 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 a ding ding a ding 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 a ding. I'm not going to mention names, but then I would think if they ever just sat down and went spang and just go to a metronome and just listen to like
Yeah.
or put a Paul Chambers record. I mean, the biggest, widest beat and the king of the for
Oh
me the king
yeah.
of the
Yeah.
bass.
Yeah.
And you go
Definitely.
bang, dang. You play quarter notes and see how
Hmm.
wide that beat is. You know,
That's good
get that
advice.
in your head. You know, and then try to go bang, dang, bang, dang. You know, just get that thing going and just get it grooving. And it's very hard to do. It's not. It's very hard to do. And try to learn to do it very slowly, and then work your way up tempo wise. And you'll be surprised at how hard that is to make it not sound contrived. You know.
Oh,
So
sure. Well,
so
I can
that's kind
relate
of
to
my
that.
thing. You know.
I remember the
Yeah.
first time. Well, the one time, uh, I came to your house. It's two sets there, and you asked me when we sat down. We talked for a while. We sat down. And you said, "Play time." So I did on a ride cymbal only. And I say this with love and respect. You taught me a lot that day. You said, "No, no, no, no. Play time." And then what you were looking for is four on the floor, very, 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 very lightly on the bass drum.
Yes.
That changed everything because it doesn't need to be heard.
Right.
It can
It's
be
more felt
felt.
than heard.
You know, that
Yes.
actually gave, when I started to practice that and utilize that, nobody knew I was doing that, but they felt something different. So thank you for that because,
Oh.
uh, I mean, I took lessons from Wilby and Danny D'Imperio and loved both of them. They taught me a lot of cool stuff. I learned from Wilby, sing the tune in your head. In fact, play the tune right now. In fact, what tune? He had me play Satin Doll. He said, play it. Make it so when you play it, I know it's that song. Of course,
Right.
I was really timid. I'm like, oh, Jesus, you got to be freaking kidding me. Nope, you're gonna do it. So, you know that was way back, man. Probably late '80s, early '90s. But I learned a lot from him. Danny taught me about the swing thing on the ride, which is basically he wrote it out. Okay, for those, I'll only say this because I don't want it to. I took lessons with him during the season and
Yes.
in the off season. No matter which season it was fun. Some lessons took a lot longer than others, depending upon which season it was. But he would always play the bass because he's very good.
Yeah, he's a very good bass player.
beautiful thing about working with Danny was being able to have a great bass player with me who understood time.
Right.
You know, he was talking about like what you were. He wrote it out as the triplet, the do 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 do, and then he said, "That's just with the left hand." You know, I'll try. I would normally do this, but I'm going to go match just so I can actually move my wrist. It's like a not a
Right.
flam necessarily, although it could be maybe for a little extra effect. And that was his way of, because I was one of those straight, well, not swinging eighth notes guys until took with him maybe when I was 20, 21, like 40 years ago. And that changed everything for me, man. That was
Oh
like,
yeah.
oh, okay. Triplets. Yeah. But doing
Yeah.
that on the snare actually helped a little bit with the comping stuff. I probably got a little too busy because I still thought at that point in my life that busy was better. Then I realized it's not.
Right.
Or it
Well,
can
see,
be,
that
but not
helps you.
usually.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, the thing is too, in playing, doing that, it really helps to keep the triplet in your beats, like the Chapin book, you know, like he has you
Yeah.
do that, you know,
Yeah.
like so when you're playing like that, even like triplets, like even straight triplets with the left hand, then
Yeah.
playing the cymbal beat in the right hand,
Oh,
it's trying to lock up everything, you know, it's trying to lock the hands up because you want to keep that. You don't, you really don't. Well, yeah, you could flam it, but you really the whole thing is to try to lock your hands up so that it's and lock it means time wise, you know.
mhm. Ah,
So
nice idea. Yeah.
yeah, and the other thing is too that's important, I think, is always try to sing like Wilby was saying. That's a great thing to do. But I always try to sing what you know I try to sing what I can play, you know.
Hmm.
So in other words, I'll even sing. I'm kind of a nut with all these records to where I sing like Hank Mobley solos, Sonny Clark solos, Wynton Kelly solos, Paul
Oh,
Chambers
cool.
solos. So I've gotten to memorize their solos, and I felt that this really helped with my phrasing on the drums. Not just listening to the drummers, but you know, you
Hmm.
listen to Bird or you play Bird tunes on a snare drum. You know, like
Yeah.
you know, you know,
Yeah.
so you get that along with his. So I mean, if you do it to the original source, that becomes a part of your playing.
Yeah.
So replicating what is very important for for really well innovation or whatever anybody wants to say, becoming your own the strongest individual you can because
Yeah.
you're learning the music from the inside out. You
I'm starting to learn about that at 60.
know.
I heard about it, but I didn't want to know. No, I started to learn about that a while ago, and it was really frustrating for me. I just, I didn't take the right path, and it doesn't matter. What it is I got to do some really cool gigs. I work with some great, great people, and I hated practicing because I actually didn't know what to do a lot of the times. And I would get bored. But this time off I've taken has actually been really, really good for me. Listen, 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 listen. I haven't even picked up a stick, in 7 years. I picked up to record a CD a couple of years ago, but just two songs that I'm on, and it's a fundraising project. It's not even about, a Carl Sterling CD, even though my name's on it. Uh, Completely a different type of project. But and then of course my tibialis anterior and my right leg was killing me after that session because my shin, the muscle next to the shin was
Oh
like,
yeah,
stop playing. And I really
sure.
played for like a half an hour, and I was dying. But I as I talk with people, especially with you today, man, especially is I love the way you articulate, well, everything. The
Thank you. I try.
learning digging into the history, learning things from the inside out, and the other thing too is, I think most of us, certainly I did, was I would just copy, copy, copy to be like somebody. Although I never had the goal to actually be just like another influence, but that's where I learned. And then I would try to combine. But eventually, the last 3, 4 years I was gigging, I think I might have had a couple of Carl things come out. You know what I mean?
Right,
Well,
yeah.
wait a minute. That's like a signature Carl move, and it was kind of cool. So, it's a process, and at some point here, I'm going to get back to doing something. I'm just not sure what.
Yeah, I
Right
hope
now,
so.
right now, my passion for history of music, history of jazz in particular, history of the drums, of course, very dear to my heart. I think it's just I love talking about it, and we
Oh,
know that
it's
there are
great.
people out there who like to hear about it too. A
Yeah.
couple of the best lessons I ever had were from people who were not drummers. Uh, Tenor sax player I know, he's like, okay, great, you did all that cool stuff on the drum sax duo at my house. This is during a session at his house, just playing, just for fun. We sat on the porch drinking coffee or espresso. He's like, okay, now what are you trying to say, and what's your intention? I never even thought about an intention. Are you kidding me? And so
Sure.
we talked for like a couple hours, and I went back in and played, and he said, whoa, you just said something. Stay on that. Stay on that. And I didn't even know I did it at the time, but that's a process, man.
You know what's funny too? Yeah, it is a process. You're right, and I think this is another thing that I always say too is I don't care who you are. I don't. You can never replicate exactly what Philly Joe. Nobody's ever going to be Philly Joe Jones. Nobody's
There's
going to
no
ever
way.
be Vinny Caliuta, and
No.
nobody just it's you're not them. So
No.
I mean Lewis Nash.
Oh yeah.
He's a friend of mine, and I remember talking with him about it once, and he said, he goes, I go and do these workshops all over the world, and I try to ask these kids about like, you know, okay, do you listen to like Philly Joe or Buddy? He goes, nah, I don't want to sound just like this guy or that guy, and he goes, you cannot. He goes,
Yeah.
ever sound exactly like these guys, but he goes, you have to have you got to know where this stuff comes from so
Yeah.
that it's
That's.
strength because we're all born. I believe this, Carl. I believe we're all born with our own voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're all
Yeah.
born with our own cymbal beat. You already got it. You just have to develop it through really learning the history of the music and learning where it comes from so that you can make it stronger and make you a stronger individual.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't try so much to be, I got to do this, I can't do what that guy did on that record. Because there's that period that you have to go through. Like I give my students like Philly Joe transcriptions and try to talk about the feel. Because you have to develop like the vocabulary of the music. You have to develop the vocabulary of the ride cymbal. You have
Yeah.
to develop all that stuff. And if once you develop that, then then you forget it and then it's and then some of this everything will come, your influences come out. It's not really your copying, it's you got to have influence in your playing or
Mm-hmm.
it's going to sound stupid. I mean, Bill was a drummer. I love Bill Stewart.
Oh
um,
gosh. Yeah. That guy's
right,
great,
Bill, I
man.
mean, there's another guy, man. He loves Philly Joe. He
Mm-hmm.
loves all those guys, and he doesn't. And you hear his Roy Haynes. I hear all the influences, but
Yeah.
he's a guy that really took it to me, took that to a different really to his own level. I mean, like you can tell it's Bill, like with his coordination is off the charts, but
That guy is something, man.
he makes everything work so well and it sounds so good, and it's just, and he's such a nice guy too, and
That's the.
it's like, but
I'm with
yeah,
you. I have a little puppy knocking at the door. So
okay.
come on in, little pup. Yes, I promise I'll feed you soon.
All
Come on in and have a seat, Brandy. Brandy the pup. Yeah, I've
right,
never seen Bill live, but man, that guy's really something. He's
he
really
is,
special. He's
he
he's done
sure
a lot
is.
of stuff too. He's played with a lot of different people.
Oh yeah, I mean, my favorite stuff I hear him play is with I've heard him do is the stuff with Peter Bernstein and Larry Goldings, that
Oh,
trio.
oh
Because those
gosh.
guys have such a history together. They started playing at Augie's like 30 something years ago.
Oh wow, man.
And so they have the history that they have together, and it's beautiful to listen to.
You know, um, I've only seen Larry the one time at the same show you did with Sco
All
and
right, okay.
Jack. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing, actually. And then off to his right, he had. I'm going a little bit off here, but he had like this little Wurlitzer
Oh
that
yeah.
made the coolest sounds. And I remember, I think I was with you and maybe Oh God, I feel so bad. I can't. Is it Steve Curry
Okay.
at the hotel afterwards? And Larry came in, and we were just talking, and he was very laid back, really fun. But man, that he was what a player he is. Um,
Yes.
so
Great guy.
actually, we have a question from Ted. Um,
Okay.
the question is, what is your approach to comping, and how has it evolved over the years? Who are some of the drummers who have influenced your approach to comping?
Okay. Well, my approach to comping really is trying to really do what I always feel like comp means, a company, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I always feel like my approach to it is just trying to be able to, um, I try to listen to everything that's going on in the band, and
Mm-hmm.
I try to play what I'm hearing, contributing kind of with my left hand and my bass drum, something that's going to make the whoever's soloing uh, sound as good as they can sound without ever overstepping them. So I really try to
Yeah.
play underneath everybody, even if it's hard hitting. You
Mm-hmm.
try not to just take, like Elvin was a master for me at
Yeah.
comping, because even
Mm-hmm.
when he played all this stuff, it always never overtook things. Even with Train, I mean, Afro Blue or something is,
Yeah.
it's different, but it still had that tipping thing kind of going on. So I think, for me, that's I always try to just play what I feel is right for the in the moment. Um, yeah.
Um, so it's an interesting point, and one thing I wanted to say, I have it written on some notes here, is one of the things I really like about how you play, and there are a lot of things, but one of them is how you fit into various situations. I remember coming out and seeing you at the festival, seeing you here in Syracuse a few times, and then at the hotel. You had a regular gig on maybe a Friday or something, or a Saturday at some place in Rochester, and but just you one of the things to get back what I was actually going to say is you bring out the best in the other people. Like you make them sound even better, right? And I love that
Oh, well,
quality
well,
in
that's my
a
goal.
drummer especially. I think in a drummer especially, that's just singing to me. Yeah, I know. Okay, soon. All right, all right, all right, girl. Everybody, you have to meet Brandy. This is Brandy. Hi,
Hey,
Brandy.
Brandy. Wow, what a beautiful dog.
Hello, little one. Okay, yeah, we'll get you soon. You're gonna be okay, sweetie. Um, my apologies, folks. I forgot this is feeding time, but she'll be all right, won't you? But bringing the as a drummer, especially playing for the situation, for the song, for the soloist, for the music, no matter what's going on at any given time, is real. That's a process. That
Right.
really comes with doing the gigs, listening, learning, practicing, and doing.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Did I miss the second part of Ted's question? I'm sorry. What was?
Oh,
I
so
just want to be sure.
um, uh, who are some of the drummers that have influenced your approach to comping?
Okay. Well, I think Philly Joe definitely. Max Roach.
Yeah, they were
I would
masters.
say, yeah, yeah. I'd say Roy Haynes, definitely.
Love
Um,
Roy.
oh yeah, yeah, it's great. And Jimmy Cobb,
Oh
you
God,
know,
yeah.
and Billy Higgins. Billy Higgins has been a big, huge influence too. I would say
Gosh,
those
that's right.
guys.
It's funny. I was thinking about Billy the other day. I think I have him. I got a lot of vinyl with him on it, like for Blue Notes of this
Oh
and
yeah.
that, and Dexter Gordon, and he always had that beautiful ride sound too.
Oh,
You know,
oh man.
swoosh. It's just
Y-
beautiful.
Yeah. I know. I'll say one quick story because I have to say this uh, from because this is one of the greatest nights of my life. Really, I went to with Steve Kiner actually. We drove up. There was an ice storm here in 1991, so
Hmm.
no power, nothing. So he goes, man, let's get out of here. Let's go. Cedar Walton was playing with Billy up in Toronto. This
Oh,
club.
cool.
So I go, yeah, I'm with you. Let's get out of here. So we go up there, and so the first night we sat like kind of further in the middle of the crowd, but I met Billy, you know, and I told him how much he's another guy. Oh man, no, you know,
Sweet
you
guy,
came
I
from
heard.
Rochester. Yeah, oh,
Yeah.
super sweet. So, so anyway, so I remember hearing him, and it was incredible. And then the second night we went there, I remember Steve says, he goes, where would you guys like to sit? And we got there early, and there was seats right up next to right, like I could have touched Billy's ride cymbal, you know. So he came and he goes, oh man, you're
Wow.
back. He goes, you guys
That's
are back.
beautiful.
Oh man, you know, he's like so nice. So, but man, he played. There's a Cedar tune called "Firm Roots." You know that song?
I do. I know that one.
So he took a solo on "Firm Roots" with between brushes, mallets, sticks, and even playing like the back of the mallet. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
And man, I had this. I couldn't believe how I never heard anything like that. To this day, live, I've never heard a drummer play like that in my life.
Mhm.
That was unbelievable, and his whole thing was just poetry and motion. It was just, it hit me. I was like, man, I helped him pack up his drums afterwards. I never forget that because we started talking about Jr. Monterose and
Oh
Joe
yeah, I remember
Romano.
Jr.
Yeah, and because he goes, well, man, Rochester, man. He goes, did you ever know like Joe? I go, man, of course. He's like one of my musical dads. I started playing.
Yeah.
You know, I started playing with Joe when I was 16, and I
Wow,
said, man, I
man.
used to go to JR when I was 16, and Salamico. We started talking about
Sal,
it.
I remember Sal and Jr. used to do a lot of stuff together. Actually, I saw Jimmy with them a few times. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I used to
Wow.
suffer Jimmy with them quite often. You know.
Jeez, man.
So
What a
we started.
what a great situation that it was. Yeah.
Oh man, it was amazing. So I started talking about those guys. And then we started to get on records, and I remember he was like, he was surprised that we just started talking about all these records, and there was a tune he played. He wrote his first tune was called Maryland's Dilemma that we used to play here in Rochester all the time.
Mhm.
And I go, man, that tune Maryland's Dilemma you wrote. He goes, you know that tune? I go, man, we play it in Rochester. He goes, really? He was like, he was just so nice. He just couldn't believe that I even knew the tune. He goes, that's the first tune I ever wrote, and I wrote it in high school. I go, you wrote
Oh,
that
man.
thing in high school? I go,
Jeez.
man. So I was like really like, that was, I mean, I can't say, it was really, I was shocked. I had to sit for like, after even helping with his drums, I sat back down. I said, man, this is like one of the greatest nights of music that I've ever heard in my life. I told him, you know. He was like,
Yeah.
oh, and he was so like, oh, no, man, Philly Joe, all this stuff. Yeah, those are the guys. He's like, and I'm like, no, man, I'm serious. And he was so nice. And he was, again, another guy real worried. You got to stay overnight. I don't want you driving back. That's too far. Just was so sweet, you know. So
You know-
that was a big thing I had to get off my chest. I'm sorry.
Oh
about
no,
that,
I'm
'cause that
so
was-
glad you did because those things too. I don't know about you, but when I meet a hero, let's say, whether it's in my neuro stuff work or any musician, your life can potentially change at that moment. It can be a pivotal moment because of whatever the circumstances are. Um, maybe not a drastic change, but that memory that stays with you. I mean, it could also
Yeah.
be bad. It could be a bad one, but when it's good and positive and reinforcing, and somebody's humble and they're telling you about. I mean, I appreciate that a lot. I think it's a great thing. Great
Oh,
thing
yeah.
to meet a hero and have they're human and they talk to you. And I heard about Billy. I never saw him though. I wish I did. Actually, Jimmy Johns turned me on to Firm Roots. He turned me on to Cedar Walton probably 40 years ago or 35
Oh man,
years
Jimmy's
ago.
like the biggest. He's like the biggest Cedar. He anything with Cedar. Cedar could be
Yeah.
playing with a bunch of like little like 8-year-olds, and he'd want that recording, you know. But I heard Billy. I have to say this. I heard my man Jimmy play with Cedar, man, and he played great with Cedar. Rick
Oh.
Montalbano, I don't know if you were there, but Rick Montalbano brought Cedar and Paul West up to the Rome Arts Center back
Nope,
in
I was not there.
1988.
Oh
19, I
man.
remember this, and I remember Jimmy being kind of real because that's his hero, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah.
but man, he nailed it. He played every arrangement. He did Cedar call anything. He played played Bolivia, and Cedar wanted to play brushes on it, and he played
Mhm.
brushes on it. And he sounded so beautiful. And Jimmy's one of my heroes. I mean, I love Jimmy to death. You know, I mean, he really is. Jimmy Johns is another guy I will say, man, who's got There's a guy who's got a cymbal beat. He's got one of the cymbal beats for the ages. And, I mean,
Yeah, he does,
anywhere,
man. I always
anywhere.
admired that. I just,
And there's another humble guy that if he heard me say it, he'd go, "Oh, come on, no, I can't."
yeah. So we got to talk him into doing something here with me because
Please do.
he's being shy.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't be because he's one of my favorite musicians and a very close friend.
Yeah, he's such a great guy.
He is.
Well, I don't want to go. I probably should. Otherwise, somebody's going to start maybe knocking stuff over.
Oh, I know. No,
Right,
I
Brandy?
appreciate it.
But Mike, would you do this again with me sometime? We could
Of
do like
course.
a part 2 because there's so much to talk about. We barely scratched the surface on a lot of things, and I'd love to get in more to your mind and your thinking and your playing. And you're one of my heroes. I probably never told you that, but I'm telling you right now, you are one of my heroes, or I wouldn't be asking you to do this because I respect you so much as a musician, as a person, and what you bring to the table is massive. You're a student of the music. You're always. I'll never forget this one time I came out to see you at the Suds factory with John Spillett and whoever was there. You had the green set of Gretsch. Not that it matters, but I just remember it. And I don't know if it was you or somebody's like, "No, you're gonna sit in. Come on, play." Like, no, Mike, it's your gig, Mike. I can't remember who did it, and I ended up playing. I'm like, okay, I gotta get out of here, man.
No. No, I have to say, I've always really admired your playing because I used to hear you play with Ronnie Lee.
Really?
And I know how much Ronnie loved you, man. And so,
that was a magical gig for me. Somehow, I think, we have a good chemistry. I need to call him. I miss him. He'd been trying to get me to play again, and I said no for a while. But maybe it's time to do something after COVID or whenever we can do a live gig. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. I might be calling you up, brother, for a lesson. We could do a virtual. Seriously, I'm totally serious. I've got shit I've got to do, and I need to learn. I need to restructure stuff because I just do. Do.
Well, no, but seriously, and I'm not just saying. I mean, I've always been a big admirer of you too, and I know that's something that's like a cliche thing guys say, but I have to say that from the bottom of my heart. Because I know how much Ronnie loves you. He always would tell man, Carl, man, because you play with him so much, And Ronnie's another guy. He's so soulful, man. Beautiful.
Oh Jesus! Hey, there's a guy. Just his voice with nothing. He can make me cry.
Oh,
I will.
Yeah,
I've been emoting on the drum set when he's singing certain things. I got to keep it together because I actually can't really even listen to him sometimes. Most of the time I can, but once in a while it's just so beautiful. I'm like, okay, I need tissue, because seriously, that soulfulness, that everything he brings to it, and you get the rest of the band. We always had good players or great players. Like, holy crap!
Oh yeah,
I'm here doing this. Are you kidding me? So, yeah, man. And we have a comment from Michael Totino. It says, "Thank you so much for doing this." Hey, man, believe me, it's my pleasure. It's really my pleasure. We are gonna, if you'll join me another time, maybe in
of course
3-4 weeks. Let's do part 2, man.
Of course, yeah. Let me know anytime.
I don't think I told you this beforehand. Part of the reason I'm doing this is because I want to talk with people who are just like you. Where you're coming from, your intention behind what you do, your ethic behind work, practice, study, listen, all the stuff that you've brought here today is so important for people to hear, I think, if they're students, and if we're out there doing anything, we're students of, music anyways. And it's all extremely relevant, too. And I selfishly, I'm indulging in this because that's what I want to do, and I learned a lot today. But also, I know there are a lot of people who enjoy and want to hear from you, because you're the real, in my words, you're the real frickin' deal.
Well, thank you. I
You
try.
you are the student of the music. You are the real deal, and I say that also from the bottom of my heart, or we wouldn't be talking. I mean, I respect you greatly, my friend. So keep doing what you always have done, and I know you will, because that's how you are. You're important to me, and you're important to us. And so let's do it again, because this is a freaking blast. I
Yeah, it
love.
is. I had a great time, and thanks so much for having me on. It's always very. I always feel honored when people ask me to do interviews. I really do. There's a million guys out there. So it's always nice to be asked, to do this, and I really, really appreciate it.
It's completely my pleasure. It really is. And again, I appreciate you very, very much. And with that
Likewise.
said, in the words of Adam Nussbaum, stay positive and test negative.
That's it.
Love
Great.
that guy, man. All right. Well,
All
hey,
right.
Michael and Ted and Yitzi and Heidi and Jim and you and others, so I can't scroll down. Thanks a lot for listening and watching. And thank you, Mike, for joining me. I'll be in touch. We'll do it again, my friend, okay?
Sounds great, Carl. Thank you so much.
You got it, brother. Take
All
care,
right.
everyone.
Take care.
You got it.
All
See you
right.
later.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.